Good morning. I want to thank everybody who joins us. My name is Oleksandr, and it's my pleasure to see all of you joining us in Ukraine Media Center. Today we have invited you to a press conference during which we will discuss awareness campaign that was launched by the State Emergency Service of Ukraine in the area of Demining. So according to the latest information, Ukraine is the most densely mined country of the world. That results from the full-scale invasion of Russian Federation. According to the data from State Emergency Service, 124,000 square kilometers, which accounts for 24% of the territory of Ukraine, is densely mined, so it's a big problem, and we want to discuss how to counter it. So let me introduce our speakers. Joining us today are Serhii Reva, head of the Department for Organizational Work on Humanitarian Demining at the Ukraine State Emergency Service. Also joining us is Oleksandr, Khorunzhiy, press officer of the State Emergency Service, and Ruslana Korenchuk, manager of Joint Projects of the East Europe Foundation and the Minister of Digital Transformation, project manager of Diia.Education. Good morning, dear panelists. Mr. Serhii, let's give the floor to you. Let's start with the background. What is the situation for the time being? What are the current results of demining? What can we safely state for the time being? Good morning. You've put it absolutely correctly that according to the evaluations not only of State Emergency Service but also the evaluation of the National Mine Action Authority in Ukraine, 24% of our territory, of the territory of our country, is evaluated as potentially dangerous. They're subject to further examination and demining. In coordination with all of the security and defense forces mine action operators, we take maximum efforts to decrease the threat for our population posed by the explosive ordnance. And for the time being, the units of State Emergency Service, starting with the beginning of the full-scale invasion, have demined more than 1,400 square kilometers of our territory. The work is ongoing. We set off on daily missions with more than 1,000 people working in that area. They are involved in detection, identification, search for explosive ordnance to make sure that people can safely come back to their lands, to their homes, to safely sow and harvest the crops. Talking about the emergencies, we understand that the number of accidents, that accidents is something that exists specifically when talking about our agricultural sector. So what is the statistics of accidents for the time being? Well, unfortunately, we have the sad statistics according to the Secretariat of the National Authority. As of today, 7 and 3 persons who were injured, plus 303 who died, unfortunately, including 15 children who died as a result of a detonation of explosive ordnance. And in order for that statistics to be decreased, in order to make sure that people know what to do with the explosive ordnance in case of their detection and identification, where to go, where to call, and to change the sentiment of our population, because we live in other reality other than we used to live before the full-scale invasion. We started this awareness campaign. We started trainings, briefings of the population, of the agrarians and representatives of other businesses. We raised their awareness about the mine safety. So, Mr. Serhii, for our understanding, to what extent is the demining process extended and important? We remember how densely was Kiev region mined after the Diia.Occupation, and for the time being, is it safe to state that all of the territories were already surveyed, or is it still an ongoing process? It's been 2 years, 2.5 years after the beginning of the full-scale invasion. But for our understanding, how long would it take to demine the rest of the territories? Well, talking about the territories that are most densely contaminated is Donetsk, Kherson, Kharkiv regions, a little bit less Mykolaiv region. And talking about Kiev or Chernihiv regions, yes, those priorities that we set for ourselves, those tasks, I think that we've achieved them because the priority was given to the settlements, critical infrastructure facilities, roads, and now it's safe to state that we've made it. We've switched to the agricultural lands, forests, parks, forests and parks, and basically those are the places where, how do I put it correct, where people spend more time in those regions. We've already completed the demining work to some extent, and now using that experience of Kiev and Chernihiv regions, we implement it in Kharkiv, Kherson, Donetsk and Mykolaiv region, where we demine agricultural lands or critical infrastructure facilities in case necessary. So this work is ongoing and it will continue until we defuse the last piece of explosive ordnance that we detect. And it's difficult to say about some time frame. We have a strategy approved by the government. The strategy is planned for the year 33, and it contemplates that by that time 70% of the territory will be released to normal use. I'm confident we will achieve that result. We will take our best efforts because now we're switching to new technologies. We use innovative solutions because in a way that demining was going on before the full-scale invasion, it cannot continue like that because we're facing the new challenges, and new challenges require new solutions. We're looking for those solutions in coordination with the civil organizations, with the academia, with the scientific institutions that suggest some methods for us that we use practically. We test them and we say, yeah, that's okay or not. Thank you very much, Mr. Serhii. Now the question is to you, Mr. Oleksandr. Mr. Serhii mentioned that you tried to raise awareness of the population about the mine threat in those locations where it's necessary. So what are the tools that you're using to make sure that the most of the people find out about such dangerous areas and to make sure that our kids remember about the threat? Good morning, everybody. Once again, well, I have to state that there is really a problem. And I want to thank for the presentation. And one of the priorities of the State Emergency Service of Ukraine, apart from clearing the territory, is raising awareness of the population on the rules of handling the explosive ordnance or suspicious devices, how to discern them, what types exist, where they can be located, and so on and so forth. So we arm the people with knowledge to the maximum extent to make sure that they know everything. So what's included in the trainings and briefings? So first of all, it's the trainings in the educational institutions, in preschool educational institutions, raising awareness among the adults. We establish training courses in coordination with the partners and military administrations. I would like to commend the work with UNICEF, UNDP. Now we implement a campaign with BBC Media Action, Hello Trust, Danish Group, Danish Refugee Council, and a lot of other organizations that help us in this regard. And I would like to say that we've held more than 42 events which covered about 1.5 million people. What else is of help? We have in our calculations, we have the mobile mine safety classes that help us to raise awareness in the remote regions where children or adults cannot get a knowledge from the educational institutions. We have 15 mobile safety classes that cruise the territories and do such classes not only in mine safety but also in fire safety prevention of the natural threats. And this media campaign that I'm about to proceed, we're implementing it with BBC Media Action, with the technical support of State Emergency Service of Ukraine, upon the initiative of UNDP, and funded by the government of Japan. So the information campaign on mines, awareness campaign on mine safety, spot the changes. Why is it important? Because Mr. Serhii has already mentioned the details on the density of mine, and we are the most heavily mined country all around the world. This is why all those things are very important. Now, the goal is to decrease the number of people injured and killed by the explosive ordnance. So who takes part in the campaign? Males aged 25 plus years, because according to the statistics that we get from the Secretariat of Mine Action Authority, 303 people died, and the majority of those who died are males. And even among the kids, we have 15 boys and 1 girl. So the target audience is definitely the males here. Why do you think it's interesting? Why is this campaign interesting? No, I mean, why are the men so interested, so curious about those objects? Well, the men are more inclined to risk. It's something that's demonstrated not only by statistics, but the life. The males, they are researchers. It's interesting for them, you know, to find something in their land plot, to cut it in pieces, to put it apart. And unfortunately, it results in negative consequences, including lethal ones. So what does the campaign include? It includes first 4 videos. And the key statement of the campaign is stop, don't touch, walk back in the same way you walked to that point, and call 101. Everything is to communicate this information to the people. We're saying that people may find explosive ordnance in regular places that they visit on a daily basis, like curbs of the roads, forests, land plots, and we focus their attention on how to act when people see some suspicious objects, and we remind them of the basic safety rules. We have some intermediate results of the campaign so far. The coverage with videos, we post videos not only on TV channels, but also we involve the social support centers, and the videos are adapted for the people with hearing impairment. That's why we've included all those things. We've made a social advertising, the words that draw the attention of the population and focus on safety. So you see those are the most contaminated regions: Kharkiv, Kherson, Kiev, and Zaporizhia regions. So the results of the campaign. What's also important in this campaign, we were supported by businesses, socially responsible businesses, which post necessary materials in their platforms, and we want to thank them for getting involved and informing population about important things in terms of safety. Now let me smoothly proceed to the educational sector, and then I will be able to give the floor to Ms. Ruslana. So one of the elements of this campaign is a series about mine safety. 9 episodes were developed, and they are commented by one of the representatives of State Emergency Service, Ivan Shepelev, who tells about different types of explosive ordnance in every single episode, and every single citizen can get familiarized with this advice. And you may find out more about the campaign if you proceed through these QR codes. Basically, all of the materials are gathered there. And now let me give the floor to Ruslana, who will tell us about this series in different platforms. Thank you. So let me add that Diia.Education is the platform that contains different knowledge about the media literacy, digital literacy. But with the beginning of the full-scale invasion, we started working on providing basically those materials and information that would be important in our time. This is why we posted this educational series, and let me give you the spoiler right away. It's not gonna be just the series, but also the simulator. And talking about the difference, like the series is just 9 episodes with the narrative provision of information. However, afterwards you may pass a test and get a certificate that you understand the principles after watching the series, because basically changing those principles in our head is not such an easy task, because we're all the researchers. We want to find out more, and the format of educational series and educational simulators is a pattern that helps us demonstrate what doesn't need to be done, that you have to stop, walk back, and call 101. And this is why we are going to post those products in Diia.Education platform. So let me remind you that now the number of users who signed up is 2.2 million. So basically a broad range of people who watch this series, and 75% of our students finished the educational series, and we have quite a good percentage of those who obtain certificates, 3.5, more than 3.5 million. And also the platform contains 200 educational products, and they're about the digital literacy and skilling and upskilling, because for us it's important for the people to be safe and to understand the principles of online safety and physical technical safety, and could also ensure they can get new skills, not only digital skills but also physical skills for some new job. So please come to the platform, sign up. You are about to find a lot of interesting things, starting with the tests and ending with podcast simulators, guides. And this series hopefully will find a response among Ukrainians, because it's important for us to remember those 4 steps, what to do, and spot the changes. Ruslana, so when the series are going to be available? They're already available in the platform, and shortly you're about to get a link to the simulators, but you will definitely see that. I would like to mention that simulator is going to be even more interesting than the series, because the people who entered Diia.Education, they may check their knowledge when Ivan Shepelev is saying you're in the field and you have 3 optional answers, and all of the 3 options are not so easy. People have to really think about how to act in that situation, what to do with explosive ordnance. So I invite everybody to watch the series. Thank you very much. So thank you. Get involved. Mr. Serhii, let me ask you a question. We understand that usually such awareness projects, they support raising awareness in terms of explosive ordnance. We understand that it has been 11 years of the war by now, and it's the third year of the full-scale invasion. So to what extent does the statistics say or doesn't say that people are becoming more attentive year to year? Well, let me put it like this. Uh, Definitely the work that was done yields positive results, and even without mentioning the statistics, we may say that when we talk to the people, when we come, for example, for the second time to a settlement to raise awareness, many people keep saying that, yeah, we've seen that, we know how to act, we know how to handle the explosive ordnance in case we identify them. And talking about the statistics, recently there was an interesting study that said that the level of knowledge of Ukrainians is way higher now, and it will keep growing because people understand that this is what their health, the health of their children and families depend on. So basically the awareness campaigns work. Well, it would be right probably to compare with the year 21, for example, but you know, in the year 22, 23, we will be documenting the increase, because before that we had no war, so it wouldn't be quite relevant to talk about any comparison, because it was the first time that we faced such a scale of areas mining. But the fact that the awareness campaigns work is 100%, and even the children, when we come to educational institutions, they already start advising us how to act in this or that case. It looks so funny that they try to teach us something. Well, Mr. Oleksandr, I think that this week there was a picture online where a pensioner tied their tomatoes under the sign of mine danger. So to what extent such cases still exist, and what is the approach that you use for the older population? Well, I'm perfectly aware of this situation. It was coming from Chernihiv region. The people use those danger mines signs to tie up their tomatoes, and we've decided to post it online immediately because that was not a single case. The same cases were documented in Kharkiv region as well. You know, the Ukrainian people, they are always the owners of their land, but at the same time it's not so funny, you know, because as they pull out those placards and they use them in their backyards, it poses a threat to everybody, because first they remove the sign of danger and they forget where the mines are themselves. I mean, it was commented by the sappers in the Zaporizhia region. Sometimes they identify such cases when people just pull those placards to use them in their backyards. So it's not a funny story at all. People may come to those dangerous zones and get blown. So those cases were covered too, and I would like just to ask the people, please don't do that. Please leave the placards where they are supposed to be, because it's vitally important, it's crucial, and it creates threat for the others. Other people may come to the dangerous zone and get blown. And probably the last question I cannot help but asking, given the events unfolding in the theater of combat operations, we all keep track of those things. Well, so what is the job of the State Emergency Service? Are you preparing for demining? Yeah, we're always ready. We're not preparing because we're already ready. We use the practice of the joint units of the State Emergency Service not only in Ukraine, where we used to work after the liberation of Kharkiv region and Kherson region. when the joint units were coming to the area with their material, pyrotechnics, rescuers, and so on and so forth. And on top of that, we were working abroad. We did quite an efficient job in Turkey that was commanded by our partners. That's why it's gonna be real quick. If there is an order from the government authorities, thank you very much for this broadcast. Thank you very much for the information. And we hope that mine safety will really become such a necessary security and safety activity for our people, and we will be able to minimize such cases that touch upon the safety of our population. Thank you very much for joining our broadcast, and we want to thank the Security and Defense Forces, thanks to whom we can hold events like this. Glory to Ukraine!